The Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen, grab your seat, let's have a blast. At the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. Today I have Spencer B.
Good afternoon, Rebecca. I'm wonderful.
Hello, Spencer. How are you?
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure. Okay, what does the B stand for, Spencer?
It's meant to be my mother's maiden name, but I can't find a trace of it.
Okay. I like it because it separates out the two names. I really like it. Now, you are the founder of an organisation called, and let me get this right, Reboundog.
It is correct. It is
Reboundog is all one word, isn't it? Yeah. What do they do?
I, as founder, have got this passion for collaborating, connecting people. I've got a skill at networking people, and I looked at how I could create an impact in a disruptive manner. So I connect pet advocates globally. We operate as a social impact network. So we are a network of individuals. We are looking at, rather than just trying to solve the animal rescue problem by creating another animal rescue or animal shelter, locally or nationally, we need to look at actually what is the problem that is causing the problem of too many dogs in shelters and rescues and so forth, and behavioural issues. So over 2 years, I brought together a very diverse network of people from Australia right through to the west coast of America. So we are now globally on 5 continents, excluding South America. And the team meet up on a monthly basis for what I call sofa meetups, have a very broad experience in animal welfare, animal behaviour. The majority, such as myself, come from outside of the industry. So we are bringing industry knowledge, whether that's marketing. Brian's gone to sleep as it always does. Whether it's marketing, photography, branding, lean management, whatever it is, into the equation. Whether, we've just had somebody join us, an eco-psychologist. So it's looking at how we can bring our skills that we've gained in life to collaborate, sit down, and use the network to create solutions that will be innovative, not repeating the same problem. And what we've learned, or I've certainly learned, is one thinks, if you've ever seen that classic dancing man in the video, in the field video of how to build a movement, is I thought, wow, it's just going to happen overnight. There's going to be 5,000 people joining like BLM or Occupy Me. And it doesn't, in reality, it's like growing your bit. It doesn't work like that. But what we've learned is that if you want to create something new or solve a social problem, that's what it's about, is solving those what are called wicked problems, those social problems that aren't caused by one individual. They can't be solved by one individual. There's no one organisation that's been the cause of it. And you can't solve it overnight. And what I've certainly learned in the last few months is the way to do it is to talk about impacts and KPIs, is to start to create incremental impacts at small scale and measure those. So rather than trying to solve 100% of a problem, if in the next year Reboundog, through its network of partners and members and associates, so there's 50 of us at the moment. If 50 of us go out and create a 5% impact in our own field, and you multiply it, you have a network effect. And that's what turns me on. It's that network effect that we can create together a far greater social impact than you and I or any of your viewers can do individually. And that's the whole purpose of it. I put my hands on it, it's that collaboration. Reboundog is that collaboration space to do so. And the way we found that it works is to hold regular monthly meetings, but rather than being the, so everybody's going to doze off when I say meetings, and rather than being the Zoom call that looks like the old Muppets in the box, I have a passion for breaking down silos. I don't do status, I don't do CEO egos and that sort of thing, and so forth. So the idea is, if we were meeting pre-pandemic, if we were meeting in real person, we'd probably sit in a hotel foyer or a conference room, and the idea is that we could bring I'll use the big names, those who've got the experience to sit on a sofa, not stand up on a corporate conference stage and give a PowerPoint click presentation, but let's have a conversation with those people. But let's bring the other side, because I'm always fighting for the underdog. Let's bring the newbies in, the startups in, those that never have the network opportunity or the status or the membership of a multi-figure trade organization to belong. Let's get them the opportunity to have a conversation with those people. So you bring in the knowledge of the experience into somebody else, and like you and I are having a conversation now, one of us is going to go away and say, oh, that nugget, that little bit that somebody said, it's coaching in a way. It's coaching on a subtle conversational scale. And there's a book on my bedside which I've started reading again. Is the conversation, is the transcripts of the podcasts between Bruce Springsteen and President Obama when they did a podcast, and it's all about conversations. And there's a wonderful shot of two of them sitting in Bruce's farmhouse with a mic each, just having a chinwag, having a
chat. Let's rewind, okay? Because there's so much there that you've told us about stuff, so that I want to unpick bit by bit. So you founded this because I know you have a love of animals and dogs in particular. And there is an issue across the world with animal cruelty and, dogs being allowed to roam about in huge packs and all kinds of awful things. Where did that fascination and that passion come from for animals?
Quite simply, my background is probably, you call it broken family if you want to put it. I don't like labels. It's just how I was. So I've always been the outsider, the outlier, and never listened to. If you think that a lot of my background's out the corporate, big scale landscaping or truck driving, so I've always been the labourer in the element rather than the academic side or the status part of the corporation. And we're not listened to. We're labelled. We're labelled and said, oh, you're just a truck driver, you haven't got an opinion. And if you go into school systems where if you don't fit or if you've got autism of some sort, you're not listened to because your opinion isn't the edge. And we're the outsider, we are the underdogs. And having gone through that for now 50, 60 years plus, there was 6-7 years ago, somebody in the States sent me a video of what the Americans call a prison dog program, where the disadvantaged dog that isn't rehomed easily because it's not cute and fluffy and everybody wants it has behavioural problems, is put into usually a soft prison, so it's retrained to be sociable. But in doing so, the incarcerated or the prisoner is trained life skills in training, behaviour, grooming, whatever. So it enables them to be able to participate in society. And the bit that really lit me up, and I won't swear because we're being recorded to an audience, is you had the dog there and you had the person there, and they're both realised, and you can see the thought bubbles, that's how my head works, going in their head and saying, he or she doesn't give a proverbial about my background. They are actually listening, or what is now called deep listening. They are listening to me without prejudgment. And I just went, wow, if we took that idea of enabling underdogs to participate in society through listening, it changes the whole perspective. And if you use that as an example and took that into other social sectors, So it's enabling underdogs, whether they're people, whether they're army veterans with PTSD or whatever it is, or autistic people, or whatever it is. There has to be a method of increasing the ability for them to participate in society, and it also allows society to benefit because it lowers the social costs. And I can't remember the figures, but they're stupid. If you put somebody inside in prison, okay, they've done something wrong. The cost of doing so to provide somebody with a safe house if they've got a mental issue, if you want, is horrendous. If we can reduce that by creating these little impacts, then we change the world. And it's just that simple. And it's that bit that you're listening without. That's what drives me. It's having some, and you go into your work. You go into places, and somebody will half listen to you, and they want to jump in. They want to throw you. They've answered your question before they've answered what you're saying before you've even told them what you're saying, and that's what the problem is. We don't listen, and the dogs give us an opportunity to slow down, to empathize, to have an emotional bond. And it's the what if we could extrapolate that idea away from just American prison systems, and we took it into any scenario, whether it's homeless people that we see in Ecuador or wherever it is, to enable them to have some meaning to their life so they can participate, so they have some value. And then it also puts a value on the dog in a rescue, in a shelter that isn't rehoused, that is currently the business model relies on goodwill from the people running it. It relies on donations from you and I putting stuff into a charity shop, and it relies on donations. And as we saw during the pandemic, it failed because the donations just disappeared. Yeah. So there's
talk Spencer. I'm going to have to pause for 2 seconds because my 4-month-old puppy wants to go out. So I'm going to press pause. Hang on. All right, so good. Now I've sorted my 4-month-old puppy out, which is appropriate. I don't know whether you heard him. He barks slightly in the background, and he's pretty good, actually. He asks
that's not
to
bad.
go out
That's
now.
not bad at 4 months, is it?
I know. It's all right. So I have to listen to him, even in the middle of recording a podcast. So what you've said there is fascinating, because animals connect with human beings at a level that human beings find it hard to connect with each other. And I did some work with horses a while back. Julianne Griffiths, who's also been on this podcast, does leadership with horses. And I was talking to the women who are running that program about the mirror neurons and how many more mirror neurons horses have, which is why they're quite sensitive creatures. And I guess dogs are the same, and dogs also have
I
heightened
think the
sense of
smell is
smell,
about 10,000 times the human, or something crazy like that. It's phenomenally larger.
Yeah. So they'll be picking up on things that we just don't register. You know, when we're stressed, I guess we smell.
I think that is now scientifically proven that they can. There's an article somewhere I read recently that yes, they can detect. They are now proven to detect stress. And you see them being used as in therapy situations with children. I think they're now being used in situations with university students and so forth. It started, our relationship is starting to change, and our relationship, you talked about street dogs at the beginning, our relationship with animals, and I'll use dogs, it's my passion, needs to change. We've come from a society in the West where we treat them as property, where we use the word dog owner, and we need to move into a situation, place, wherever, where they are, like your 4-month-old puppy, is part of your life, part of your. I'm not being woo-woo and soft and whatever. There's a different relationship we have with the status the dog has in our life, and we need to. The whole thing comes down to education. We need to look at how education is provided and how we can educate people into the relationship that with their animal, whether it's a dog, whether it's a horse, or whether it's a cat, and to reduce this abandonment that you see in the rescue side. It's so easy, and it happens in the UK as well as the US is worse because of the numbers and etc., where we can just abandon. We can go and dump it with the Dogs Trust or the Batterseas or the Mayhews, and yes, it hurts, but it's too easy. And we're lacking education. So what as members in Reboundog are putting training programs together that are about to go live that will start to think. In fact, there's one member, he wrote a book probably earlier this year, that looked at educating children before they had a dog. So if your daughter was young and wanted that puppy, that 4-month-old puppy, you'd have gone through this book with the parents, realizing the implications of letting it out for feeding, reacting to it. What happens when I want to go out, when she gets older and wants to go out with the boyfriend? What happens then? And the life cost and so forth. And before she asks you to get the credit card out to go and buy it, you'd have gone through this, and it's mapping it out. And Kieran said to me, I said, how do you measure your book success? Classic is Amazon number one. He said, no, I'll measure it by success if 30% of the kids reading it don't get a dog because they've realised it's not for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And during lockdown, so many people went out and bought a dog who've never owned a dog in their lives. And had no idea what they were taking on. And obviously, as a dog owner, I meet a lot of dog walkers. And there was very few committed dog walkers who got a dog during the pandemic, because we all went, I'm not paying overinflated prices for a dog because it's pandering to a market need. I actually want a dog. I'll wait. And so it's quite interesting. Quite a few regular dog walkers now have puppies because the prices have now come back down. And we're like, waited to get the second dog or the new dog. But yes, and I have to say the difference it makes to people's lives, and I've seen it in when dogs are taken to the office as well. Those offices tend to be calmer. People tend to be kinder to each other, and there tends to be less sort of stressy behaviour without a shadow of a doubt.
Perception of how the relationship we have as a human with the animal, rather than being this thing that you sit in a corner while you sit in a box with the back of the car while I'm at work, if you're working in a job for 8 hours and so forth. And then the other side of the coin to this idea that Kieran had of educating children before they got the dog is Deborah, she's now Karen, she was in New York, she's an ex-lawyer. She looks at the planning at the end of our life, or what happens, how do you plan out for the inevitable? It might not be just end about, but what happens if our financial circumstances change? How do you pre-plan? And she has a map plan that takes you through that. So if you created a backup of services that would take, whether it's the vet or your friends or your relatives, that if something, even if you're only going to hospital for 2 weeks, what's the plan you have in place to accommodate your dog with somebody that it knows so it's not stressed out? Or if something long-term happens, whether it's financial crash or serious illness, what's the plan in place? So it's looking education, not just as teaching a course. It's changing perceptions of how we have a relationship. And that's what Reboundog is about. It's about bringing those people together that have a different viewpoint on status quo, that can't change the world, have a passion, get out of bed every day, stay awake in the middle of the night, wanting to change something, whether it's the rescue, the problems with too many animals in rescues and not the poor ones that don't get rehomed, but it's finding those incremental solutions, and that's what we're starting to do. And then in building on the monthly sofa meetups, we are launching in January the first of our quarterlies So we'll do something more of an event. We haven't labelled it yet. And the gist behind that is you'll probably go into a 2-hour meetup with 3 speakers, again on a conversational basis. One will be a member, such as those I've described, so they're bringing their experience to the audience. The second one is going to be somebody from outside of the pet industry. So whether it's somebody with social impact, philanthropic, social good, marketing, business strat, or whatever, and I've got a list of people in my network that are interested. One said yes for January, and the third we looked at, and I've done it before last year on the monthlies. I sort of picked up the phone and said, "Hello, I'm doing this. Do you want to come and be a guest speaker?" And that name dropping, we ended up with one of the most influential people in the pet industry in the US come on as the first guest speaker. And Mike said to me, he said, "Oh, where do I do the PowerPoint?" And I said, "You're not doing a PowerPoint. You take your tie off. You come and sit on my sofa," because we were using it. And he came along, and we were talking about breed-specific legislation when they banned the pit bulls and things. And then the second time he came on, and we were looking at partnerships between profits and non-profits for responsible dog ownership and education and so forth. And it's that, so it's bringing in, but I thought, hang on a minute, let's do something different, because I have to do it differently. I can't be normal. Rather just having the guest speaker on at that level, which everybody does, whether it's an academic or whatever, why don't we give the floor to the underdog, to the startup that comes on and gives them a space to go on a global stage, which we are, with the experience of our network, because they're way more experienced than I am. I'm just the host. Why don't we give them the platform, as if they're going, I'll use TEDx, but it's a bit facetious, flippant. That sort of, yeah. But what if we give them the opportunity to pick, not quite Dragon's Den's Shark Tank, but the opportunity to share their needs, what they're looking at, and going back to social impact. What if they're a business that wants, through their product or service in the pet industry, to create that social impact with what they're doing? So they're becoming like a long-term vision as a B corporation, if they got that far. But let's bring them in and give them the opportunity. And then if we can build that out, we could do it once a quarter, but we could do it on a longer term. We could do it on a day event or something. So we're giving a couple of people a time. But it's allowing that interaction with somebody who's like Billy, who's got 30 years of canine cognitive behavioral therapy training. She is the world's leading expert on CC. Wow. She's taken CBT and put it into canine. She does a lot of behavioral retraining for those ones that are about to be euthanized, and she prevents you. Yeah. So what if somebody could come and pick her brains on the different, a new model of doing behavior? You talked about dog walkers, rather than just pure Barbara Woodhouse training. What if we put her on this person on a stage, albeit virtual, with somebody like that? Somebody with Tom, who's got 20 plus years of CEO experience in humane societies and board level in the States. And the other thing we were talking about, a couple of us talking about this morning, what if then we've got the opportunity to give that startup our network? So we've got the introducers. We've got a member that does corporate level. She has her own business organization with best part of 1,000 members in the International Pet Sitters and Boarding Association, who runs conferences once a year. That the networks we have the opportunity to introduce people to are phenomenal. So it's giving the underdog an opportunity, rather than trying to be a incubator, such as the big things like Dent or FS6 or something like that, who want to become unicorn businesses. There's a niche we can fulfill to allow those people to come in and network and do it through conversation, and it will change, and it changes the world.
It does, and you only do a conversation at a time. And again, I'm going to go back to something you said right at the beginning, is that you're not BLM or any of these huge movements. But these huge movements have millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars behind them. I'm aware of a philanthropic organization that was an instant influencer on one of the social networks. And it's because they spent $25,000 a month on that network, and that's how they got to be an influencer. Us mere mortals. Yeah, I know. Founded by a very wealthy individual with very deep pockets. And what they're doing is fantastic. Their foundation is for good. It's great. Um, when there's an absence of those deep pockets, I think building something, a conversation at a time, and I love the way you've described that. It's literally the only way you can do it, and actually, that's just really good, solid business advice for anybody out there, no matter what stage they are at in their business journey, is to go, do you know what? You build it a conversation at a time, whether that's a conversation at a time online or in real life or in networking or whatever it happens to be. It's still a conversation at a time. And if people are sufficiently drawn to that passion and that knowledge and expertise, then they will start telling people about it, and that just multiplies. So yesterday I was listening to something where somebody was asked a question: if they had a cup of water, how long would it take to fill a lake the size of Lake Michigan, I think it was? And the answer was 85 years. And for the first, I don't know, 80 years, it's no more than a giant puddle or a bit of a pond. But for the last bit, it suddenly multiplies. And I thought, that's a superb analogy for people growing businesses. It's so tiny in the early days, those incremental stages that you often think, oh, crikey, this is going to take a long time. And until towards the peak where it just goes and explodes. So I can see these conversations multiplying many times over, Spencer.
And that's what I'm skilled at facilitating. It's also, you talked about the ripple effect or the explosion effect. It's starting to happen within Reboundog. We have our own news site, which is online as news articles, which are inspirational by both peer-reviewed and trusted sources. And one of the new members said, she writes regularly on another platform, and she's just written an article about shelters in the United States for us. And in the meantime, she said, she sent it on message last night. She said, would you like this to go out on where I publish elsewhere? She was talking about systems change and how to be part of the solution. And right at the bottom, she says, be part of the change, join Reboundog today. So the recommendation, it's this thing of people have started to talk about it. I opened up my email this morning, and Sarah in the States has said, oh, hello, Spencer, you should talk to so-and-so. And there's this introduction by email to somebody else who runs one of the pet associations in the United States that I loosely know of, but this is the recommend. So the building on this incremental stages, and I liken it to sowing, as a background of horticulturist, I liken it to sowing seeds. They're starting to flower, and the explosion comes when they set seeds, and you've got the dandelion seeds or the lupin seeds blowing away and multiplying. So we're getting to that stage where the seeds have been sown and they're now starting to flower, and people say, oh, that's nice. I like that sunflower, recommend that. And it happened twice this morning. Or I recently was persuaded, pushed, get me out of my comfort zone, to apply for one of these innovation grants in the States to award. So it pushed. I probably won't get it on the basis that I don't work there, but it put me to really drill down what I want Reboundog to do. And in doing so on this platform, one could ask for recommendations from your team. And out of 12, I got 6 recommendations, and they come back in embarrassingly glowing. So I used those in social media promotions. Yeah, but it's that feed, the feed.
Great.
replying to your comment about how it suddenly takes off, yes, those are taking off. I've seen it on articles that have been written mentioning this. I've seen in email introductions, and I've seen these recommendations, which then got part of that organisation I applied to come back to me and talk to me, so running part of it out of the UK. So it's, you don't know where that, going back to the idea of a Reboundog sofa meetup, you never know where that conversation is going to go, or what it could lead to. And if I can introduce two people that have got a similar interest through animal welfare as a very broad topic, who want to change something, realise there's a problem that they can't solve alone, then Reboundog becomes the place for it to happen, both online and then through meetups and so forth, and one day we'll do them in person.
That's great. And there are people out there who'll say, well, look, okay, this is all very well and good, but there's a lot of human suffering out there. And that's all very nice to do with animals and things like that. But what about the human suffering? Now, I know my opinion on that, and there's really good research to back up actually being kinder to animals creates kinder human beings. But what are your feelings on that?
It isn't. I've had people say to me that, oh, we need to concentrate on the dog side. You can't. I went out of this and I said, if you look at anything, it's always been about the underdogs of disadvantaged people and disadvantaged. It's always been disadvantaged, marginalised dogs and people in the same pot, going back to this prison dog program. So the two need to be done. We need to find, we can't just be dog related. Society isn't just made up of dogs, and it's made up of a whole mixture of people, like a natural ecosystem. So we need to think about how we start to create solutions that benefit people. There is now a field in the academic side, which is it veterinary social care work or something along those lines. So they're bringing social care into the animal sector as a new field. And somebody who's a leading light on that, again, just ripped off to write for us. But it brings the two fields together. It brings the animal side with the people side. And if we're going to, the problems in society about lack of care and lack of belonging for the underdog is not just animal, it's human as well. And we need to find a combined, you can see my hands going, we need to find combined solutions. So the answer, Rebecca, is that yes, my view is they're equally important and we can't do one without the other. What I believe Reboundog is bringing those two together so we can rebound as a society and become more caring, it's listening. Well, listening enables care, and the dogs teach us to listen. So the dogs in some way become a tool for the human side to happen. And rather than just go and create another homeless shelter for whatever, or another training program that does X, Y, Z, let's think about how we address those problems, whether they're in the prisons in the UK, whether they're with the homeless in the UK, whether they're with anybody that's an outsider from mainstream wealthy middle class society, or whatever you want to call it, is allowed to participate. So we get the idea with dogs is, rather than just giving them a top-down solution, providing a facility, let's turn it around so they're enabled to be retrained. So we give them a means to participate, to stand on their own 2 feet. So the underdog, the person in relation to the human side of this equation, has the facility to have the confidence and trust in themselves and confidence and trust in society that they're integrating with, that they can actually stand. If I stand, I'll be off camera, but yeah, if I was on stage, I'd stand up. You know, if I was sitting on a TEDx stall, I'd stand up and walk. But yeah, so we can stand. And you talked about movements. It's that ability to give people the confidence that they have worth. Yeah, they're not meaningless people that are dross in society. And I can't be blunt because I come from that world, so I'm talking about myself. Yeah, and it's not being patronised. So yes, it is a two.
Yeah.
It's part of. They're both part of the solution. The dogs help the people, and the people help the dogs. So we create something that's slightly different. We're not. We call Reboundog. Rebound is the obvious bit, and the dog is my passion. Somebody said I should start Rebound Cat, and it just didn't ring with me. But
no, I was. Do you know? You just read my mind. I was thinking, yeah, Rebound Cat. I know I have some friends who Rebound Cat would be perfect for. But you've got to focus on what you're passionate about. Okay, Spencer. My last question is, and I almost daren't ask you this question, but I'm going to ask you it anyway. If Reboundog had a personality or a character, how would you describe it?
Can you see that?
Spencer's just reached his shelf. I can't. Yeah, it's a little model of a little dog.
And you can't kick it because it'll hurt your toe. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Can you see? Somebody thought it was model for Wallace and Gromit thing, but I don't know what it is. I picked it up in an antique shop years ago, but it is forged steel. It is tough. You can't kick the 4-letter word out of me because it's going, yeah. And that's what it is about. Yeah, I've been kicked. I've been down. Now I've got the strength of steel. That's how I summarize Reboundog as a character.
I love that. I absolutely love that, Spencer. Thank you so much. And when I looked at all the information, I thought, God, how are we going to relate this to business? But absolutely, it's completely relatable to human beings because human beings run businesses, and that network effect and that conversation at a time, and your passion and focus happens to be dogs and people and bringing the two together. And I think you're absolutely right. Having the two standing on their own feet, if you have the person and dog together, you have 6 feet altogether, standing on their own 6 feet, I think is absolutely beautiful. And I wish you every success in the world, Spencer.
The Entrepreneurial Journey Podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen. Grab your seat, let's have a blast. At the Entrepreneurial Journey.